the Minister Kodongwana. Can you please dismiss that meeting is disruptive?
Honourable Mente, that is not a point of order. We now proceed.
People, they are standing in the house. They are standing in the house.
Honourable Member, you did not say they are standing. You said an unholy meeting. So members, please be seated. Do not stand in the passage talking. We will now proceed. Honourable Milam.
Deputy Speaker, we are frequently told that we should celebrate that Eskom has survived 311 days without load shedding. Let's be professional, but let us also be honest. We do not congratulate a fish for swimming. Providing a stable, reliable supply of electricity is not a localized miracle. It is the basic statutory mandate of Eskom and the Department of Electricity and Energy. To demand applause for finally, after 17 years of catastrophic failure, doing the job the taxpayer pays you to do is the height of mediocrity. While the national grid has remained stable for 311 days, the Minister's narrative about the eradication of load reduction is a fiction that does not survive contact with the reality of our townships and industrial hubs. In many parts of this country, the lights are still going out. We have moved from load shedding to load reduction, a semantic shift used by the state to hide its failure to maintain distribution infrastructure. We need to acknowledge that the vast majority of our municipalities are simply incapable of managing their own electrical infrastructure. When a transformer in Msunduzi or Soweto explodes because it hasn't been maintained, and a community is left in the dark for 3 weeks, that is not the eradication of a problem, Minister. That is the collapse of the local grid. Calling it load reduction is a cynical attempt to move the goalposts and escape accountability. The core of our crisis has shifted from generation to transmission, and the Minister claims progress. But Eskom's own transmission development plan indicates we need over 14,000 kilometers of new high-voltage lines over the next decade, and they are woefully behind schedule. At the current rate of rollout, we are decades away from achieving that. Without this infrastructure, the grid remains a closed shop. We have billions of rands in private investment waiting on the sidelines. Independent power producers ready to bring clean, cheap energy online, but they cannot connect because the grid is full. By failing to rapidly expand transmission infrastructure, the government is effectively maintaining an Eskom monopoly by default, stifling competition and keeping prices high. Which brings me to the socio-economic impact on ordinary citizens. We may have power in the lines today, but an increasing number of South Africans cannot afford to flip the switch. Eskom's recent application for a staggering 36 to 40% tariff increase is an assault on the poor and the middle class. It is unacceptable to ask citizens to fund decades of corruption, mismanagement, and fruitless and wasteful expenditure through their monthly electricity bills. We are creating a country of energy paupers where electricity is a luxury reserved for the elite, while the majority are forced back to paraffin and wood. The hard question we need to answer, Minister, is how does eradicating load reduction matter to a mother who has to choose between buying a loaf of bread or putting 50 Rand of electricity on her meter? The DA has been clear. We must move towards a competitive retail electricity market that drives prices down, not a state-protected monopoly that drives them up. We also need to talk about the environmental debt that this government is incurring. Eskom continues to fail in its obligations regarding minimum emission standards. By repeatedly applying for postponements and exemptions, the state is choosing to poison the air of the Highveld rather than invest in the necessary scrubbing technology or transitioning to cleaner alternatives with the urgency required. Credible research by the South African Medical Research Council and the Centre for Research on Energy and Clean Air has demonstrated that the sulfur dioxide levels around South Africa's coal plants are responsible for a death rate that is on average 6% higher than anywhere else in the country. This is not a just transition, Minister. It is a delayed transition. every day we prioritize old polluting coal plants over the rapid rollout of renewables and grid modernization, we jeopardize our climate financing from international funders and the health of our citizens. Minister, the DA does not accept a return to the status quo as a victory. We demand 3 concrete actions. Firstly, we demand that you open the grid. We need an immediate, transparent timeline for the independent transmission company to become fully operational, removed from Eskom's legacy of debt. Secondly, we need to protect the consumer. The department must intervene to block the unconscionable tariff hikes and instead focus on cutting the looting and misconduct costs within Eskom's operational budget. Thirdly, we need real investment in infrastructure. Shift the focus from the emergency fixes to the structural rollout of the 14,000 kilometers of transmission lines required to make South Africa a competitive energy market, and give us concrete deadlines of when it will be achieved, and ensure that our municipal and Eskom distribution infrastructure receives the attention it deserves to keep it operational. It is unconscionable that areas are going for as long as 3 weeks without power, as we're seeing right now in Gqeberha, because the local municipality has failed to maintain its electrical infrastructure. So yes, Minister, 311 days of power and light is a relief, but it is not a success. Success is an energy system that is reliable, competitive, clean, and above all, affordable. Until we reach that point, let's hold off on the celebrations. The people of South Africa are still waiting for a government that treats energy as a right, not a political bargaining chip. Thank you.
The next speaker is the Honourable Paulson.
Greetings to the Commander-in-Chief, Commissars, officials, ground forces of the powerful, most powerful economic emancipation movement. Deputy Speaker, South Africa today stands at a crossroads, 32 years into a freedom that has remained a hollow shell for the black majority. While the political elite will celebrate 32 years of democracy on the 27th of May, our people remain trapped in a vicious cycle of economic apartheid, landlessness, and a man-made energy disaster designed to benefit private profit seekers at the expense of the poor. We are told to pay for the failure of a directionless government and the corruption that has crippled our national unity. Our people are forced to choose between buying a loaf of bread and electricity. We say no more. We did not accept the first state-sponsored lie that load shedding has ended when it has merely rebranded as load reduction to punish our most densely populated communities. We also do not accept the second pre-election state-sponsored lie that load reduction has ended or will end. These terms were designed to mask a continuing energy crisis that disproportionately targets the poor. Today's debate is not merely about load reduction, it is about economic freedom in our lifetime. We are here to demand a total overhaul of the energy sector and an immediate provision of 200 kilowatts of free electricity to every poor household. Despite the Minister's promises to eradicate load reduction by 2027, current progress is spectacularly behind schedule. As of March 2026, Eskom has only achieved roughly 30% of its target for moving customers out of load reduction. Minister, you are flying blind by failing to implement the mandatory integrated energy plan, making multi-billion rand procurement decisions without a legal or evidentiary basis. Minister, we must not grandstand and use poor households in a media contest. Instead, Minister, you must rather focus on addressing the structural challenges of municipal funding and failing distribution equipment. The grand coalition of the ANC and the DA has failed to provide a basic human right like electricity, treating the suffering of the masses as an afterthought while enriching capitalist vultures. We reject the false logic that electricity must become more expensive to ensure financial sustainability. Minister, the EFF foresaw this madness. In our 2024 election manifesto, based on the demands of our people, we propose the following alternatives. Eliminate all historical electricity debts, including municipal debts owed to Eskom. Revoke preferential tariff deals that allow certain corporations like Glencore to receive electricity at below cost rates. These demands will only be possible if we implement the following reforms. Stop the privatization of Eskom and consolidate generation, transmission, and trust distribution back into one state-owned company. Ensure energy security for 20 years by leveraging South Africa's coal reserve and adopting clean coal technologies. Immediately halt the decommissioning of coal power stations until renewable energy can prove it can sustain the country's baseload needs. Partner with strategic allies such as the Russian Federation or the People's Republic of China to build nuclear power plants capable of producing between 3,000 and 6,000 megawatts under a 20-year build, operate, transfer contract. Subsidize off-grid and embedded electricity solutions for public institutions, including hospitals, schools, police stations, and private households. Minister, we are a new generation with new demands. We do not want reconciliation without justice. We do not want reforms that favor the billionaire class. We want our land, we want our jobs, and we want our electricity now. Amandla!
The next speaker is the Honourable Maki. Honourable Speaker from the IFP, it is now your turn.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. The IFP has consistently raised concerns that load reduction is not merely a technical intervention. It is a reflection of deeper structural failures which our electricity distribution system. It has exposed inequality in infrastructure, weaknessing in municipal governance, and the persistent challenge of illegal connection and network overloading. It is for this reason that the IFP has been at the forefront of advocating for fair and equitable electricity distribution. We have consistently called for a review of load reduction practices, highlighting their disproportionate impact on township and rural households. We therefore welcome the growing recognition of these concerns, which the IFP has long championed, now beginning to translate into policy and operational reform. The strengthening of distribution infrastructure, the rollout of smart technologies, and improved collaboration between Eskom, municipality, and law enforcement agencies are all critical steps in the right direction. Equal importance is the recognition that community must be brought into this process, not only as beneficiaries but as partners. Public awareness, community engagement, and local accountability are essential if we are to curb illegal connections and protect critical infrastructure. We know the recent electricity tariff adjustment approved by NERSA, which will see as 8.76% increase for Eskom direct customers, which even higher increase expected at the municipal level from July. While we acknowledge the need of ensure the financial sustainability of Eskom and the continued investment in critical infrastructure, the reality is that South Africans are already under immense financial pressure. Rising electricity costs place an additional burden on households and small businesses, particularly in poor and historical disadvantaged communities. The IFP has consistently maintained that while ESCOM must be established as a national asset, including through innovative approaches such as public-private partnership. This must not come at the expense of affordability. We therefore reiterate our call for target subsidies for vulnerable households, improved efficiency within ESCOM to curb unnecessary costs, and greater transparency in tariff setting processes. Honorable Deputy Speaker, energy security is not only about keeping the lights on, it is about dignity, economic participation, and restoration trust in the state. As the IFP, we will continue to support practical people-centered solutions that ensure equitability, access to electricity for all South Africans. We thank you, Deputy Speaker.
The next speaker is the Honourable Daniels.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, honourable members and fellow South Africans. I rise on behalf of the Patriotic Alliance to respond to the Minister's statement on the eradication of load reduction. Let us be clear. Load reduction has become a permanent punishment imposed on the same poor communities year after year. Unlike load shedding, it is unequal, targeted and rooted in historical neglect, weak infrastructure and failed governance. For affected communities, it means longer outages, loss of income, safety risk, and daily indignity. First, the department must publish a clear timetable identifying every area under load reduction and stating when electricity will be fully restored. We also have to deal with the real culprits. Where load reduction continues due to municipal failure or neglect, the named officials must face consequence management because communities cannot keep paying for the incompetence. Officials must be dealt with, Minister, decisively. Let me give you a typical example. I visited Nelson Mandela Bay 2 weeks ago. Twice in 2 weeks I went there. When I left, there was no power. When I returned in 2 weeks, the power was still off, not restored, still off. So the challenges there is, you get hard-earned perishables that people have in the freezers, and it goes off. And people cannot afford to take out household insurance. So what does that mean? It is not fair, Honourable Minister. You know, Honourable Minister, there are incompetent officials. I read there in the papers that they found one of the problems was that the pylons collapse. They even identified more pylons that's going to collapse. But they are being reactive as opposed to proactive. That's a problem. That's a pure sign of incompetence in its purest form by officials. They must be dealt with. Honourable Minister, the road ahead is long, but load reduction shouldn't be. Let's eradicate it permanently. It is something that we can achieve, Honourable Minister, and I'm sure we will. I believe, Honourable Minister, I welcome your commitment on behalf of the Patriotic Alliance. We welcome your statements that you have made, and we're now going to have to hold you accountable to that, Honourable Minister. But I know that we can. I thank you.
The Honourable Boshoff.
Honourable Deputy Speaker and Honourable Minister, it was interesting to listen to the poetic start of your speech, and it must be the fruits of the revolution, the inclusionary language of that. Now, a revolution indeed, and one of the problems of a revolution is that the previous dispensation is approached as if everything in it was wrong or at least malignant. And that led to a culture of non-payment and a culture of boycotts of rentals, which the present government had to deal with when it took charge. And it had two problems. The old policy of conservative distribution of power was sort of as wrong, and more electricity was distributed easier and maintenance money was used to distribute more electricity, and that led to load shedding. And then there was the unregulated distribution of electricity where there was actually just no law enforcement. People could do as they liked and there was no law enforcement, and this inevitably led to the present load reduction. Now, you mentioned the social compact which is coming into being, which is actually a very optimistic idea, and I wish I could really believe that this was a social compact. I believe, however, that you have a social compact that people believe they should pay if an official of the city council can switch off a meter in complete safety, and that the person whose meter is shut off realizes, oh my dear, I didn't pay, maybe I should go to the municipal office and pay my account. But that's not the case. Such a person is in danger of his life. So what happens is we have these smart meters, which is actually very smart since we are living in a digital age in which the state has the authority and the ability to make very intimate decisions on a household's part, to decide for them what they use the electricity for, how much, and if at all. That is not a social compact coming into being. That is something coming from the George Orwell 1984 type of novel. That is exactly the opposite of the rain falling in all languages on all the inhabitants. That is the revolution gone full circle from a totalitarian state to one where everybody do as they like, back to a totalitarian state. It's actually a little bit dystopic. I thank you.
The next speaker is the Honourable Trollip.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, let me begin where the Minister ended off with Pablo Neruda's question, in what language does rain fall over tormented cities? Ngesixhosa singaphendula ngeli hlobo sisithi umthwalo uyasinda xa uthwelwe wedwa. A burden is heavy when carried alone. And indeed, for far too long, South Africans have carried the burden of energy insecurity alone. We must acknowledge progress where it exists, and the reduction in load shedding and the stated ambition to eliminate load reduction is welcome. South African businesses, investors, and South Africans are developing some relief, and confidence is tentatively emerging. But let us not rewrite history. It was the ANC government that switched the lights off in the first place. Years of mismanagement at Eskom due to cadre deployment and the siphoning of billions of rands through state capture corruption hollowed out our generation capacity and crippled maintenance. The very crisis now being managed is one that was politically engineered through neglect and looting. The Minister is correct that load shedding is not the same as load reduction is not the same as load shedding. But for South Africans who sit in the dark, that distinction offers no comfort. Whether it's a failing transformer, the shutdown of a generation unit, or the collapse of a pylon, the result is the same. Loss of dignity, loss of income, loss of opportunity, and loss of jobs. And so, while we welcome the program outlined, smart meters, infrastructure upgrades, and community engagement, we must be honest. The scale of the problem remains immense. The ANC promoted a culture of non-payment, and the GNU continues to turn a blind eye to izinyoka. Illegal connections persist, often driven by desperation, but exploited by criminal syndicates. Municipal distribution systems remain financially and technically weak. Critically, though, Eskom is still relying on diesel to keep the lights on. The open cycle gas turbines meant for emergencies have become a permanent crutch. And as from April, South Africans are expected to face a steep increase in diesel prices of up to 9 rand a litre. Sawuphinda sithwale sodwa. South Africa does not need temporary relief, it needs structural energy reforms. We need a competitive electricity market. We need accelerated private sector generation. We need capable municipalities, and above all, we need accountability for those who broke Eskom in the first place. South Africans have carried the burden far too long. They have paid more, endured more, often expected less, and when they made their own plans, that you want to punish them now. Action SA will support every credible step towards energy stability, but we will not allow the architects of this crisis to present themselves as the failures. Thank you.
I now invite the Honourable Thring.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, the ACDP understands that load reduction, distinct from load shedding, refers to targeted electricity cuts in areas where local networks are overloaded, often due to illegal connections or infrastructure failures. But the reality is that, like load shedding, load reduction inhibits economic growth and affects the indigent most severely. The Minister has outlined his planned intentions to eradicate load reduction within the next few months. These plans include the rollout of smart meters, refurbishment of aging infrastructure, tackling illegal connections, and reviewing the free basic electricity framework. While these measures are welcome, they must be matched with urgency, accountability, and clear implementation. The ACDP is pleased that the Minister addressed the excessively high cost of electricity, which has risen by some 937% since 2007, far outpacing inflation. This places a severe burden on households, businesses, making electricity unaffordable for most. Additionally, the ACDP will be calling for amendments to regulations surrounding the generation regulatory asset base, which allows for Eskom to take an asset which has a book value of 1 rand and inflate it or increase it to up to 200 billion rand using the modern equivalent asset value in order to obtain a higher tariff increase, which they receive, this further burdening the consumer. We understand that exogenous factors, including Iran's blockade of vital oil routes, will increase input costs, and Eskom may be forced to scale back the use of open cycle gas turbines with concomitant symptoms of renewed load shedding and load reduction. But critically, government must address the inability of many municipalities, like we see in the Eastern Cape at Gqeberha, to maintain and upgrade their electricity infrastructure. Aging networks, poor maintenance, and financial mismanagement at municipal level are major contributors to load reduction. The effective implementation of the distribution agency agreement with municipalities is essential to ensure proper oversight, technical support, and accountability in electricity distribution. We must learn from the international successes in countries such as Nigeria, India, and Brazil, where efforts to curb illegal connections only succeed when combined with community engagement. As kingdom builders, the ACDP asserts that South Africans need the assurance that the Minister's promise to end load reduction are not empty words, but a practical pathway to reliable, affordable electricity for all. I thank you.
The UDM. Honourable Garner.
Na kenza mtrama stool. Holobze ramkhop. Anor kilebo ne? Kilebo or no today kilemo. Then wa bulela ka taba ya load reduction. Ka ro wa tseba hore since re tsene mo this time. Buletse hore no re khona hore no re lwane le load shedding. but ho na le ntho ya load reduction. So today we boletse ka yona. But Minister, loko na mhla vulavula hi load reduction, o reference ku ri a ri nkowankowa. And vulavule hi Mapula. So ngeni vulavula hi Mapula. Mapula na sweswi a nga na gezi. U ye nkowankowa, u vulavula na Mapula na namuntlha a nga na gezi. So meni huma Lifara. Lifara ile hansi ka Tzaneen masipala. E gezi hi 7 o'clock ra famba. Ri vuya hi 9:30. And vatwa va ri no, va ku twa va ri no, Minister or no, other places like Soweto and Tembisa, there's some improvement. But in a place that you went to in Tzaneen, there's no improvement. There's no improvement. It's like they are in the queue. They were in the first line to be consulted, but they are in the last to actually have this load reduction being resolved. So, Minister, so there are issues that you raise. So the issues of illegal connection, the issues around meter tampering. What's driving illegal connection, Minister? Is that the electrification program at ESCOM has slowed down. Our village is expanding. Our village is expanding as Utseba or no, Oya Limpopo, Abona or no. Most villages are expanding because the population is growing. But the time it takes for ESCOM to electrify these new settlements is just far too long, which in a way encourages people to then illegal connect. Not that they don't want to pay, but the time it takes for ESCOM to electrify these new settlements is what's leading to that. What's leading to meter tampering? And you talked about it, but you didn't want to point to it direct. Hey, gezi radura, Minister. Ntlakaswatura. And even, as you say that you are coming with waste, please let it come soon. Because people would like to pay, but hey, Ntlakaswatura, man. Gezi radura, Minister. So if we were to electrify quickly, and also as the last point, Minister, in my last 20 seconds, is that, especially in Tzaneen, when there's an electrical fault, it takes ages to get it resolved. We had to stay, I think I called many people, we had to stay for 7 days because cables were stolen without electricity. Because
Thank
it
you,
takes
Honourable
long for
Ghana.
people
Thank you. Your time
to
has
resolve that issue.
expired.
But I know, all of the trade.
Honourable Maimane.
Bagaetsho, first of all, Minister, e re ke go leboga o tlile o tlo bua ka kgang ya gompieno. Ke go gopotsa gape gore at the very core of this issue is who exactly is suffering from the question of load reduction. If we are honest with ourselves, these are black South Africans who live in townships. Which means that the fundamental question we are trying to address here is really the project of what a liberated South Africa must look like in order to build one South Africa. Otherwise, we have a South Africa for some who talk about load shedding and a South Africa for others who talk about load reduction. Machitako kasi mplela gore, since the days of apartheid, bana batsama baya ka fale ba ilo lighta diketlele tsa bona, and then ka kwa go tingwa di light ba boela go morago, and the reverse happens. Truly, if we want to talk about freedom, this is a fight we must win. That is why Gitlile. And therefore, I want to raise this particular issue of Leratong village. And I'm reluctant to make the particular the general, but this particular might help explain why we must fight this battle differently. On the first instance, Leratong, these are citizens who arrived there. They suffer because Masipala failed to declare that's a township. There was a dispute between Mogale City and Johannesburg. As a net result, you have citizens in South Africa living in a township and connecting illegally, insistent on paying, but are facing permanent load reduction and in conflict with other established townships, as it were. Therefore, if we're going to deal with this issue, we can't ignore this question. Where is municipal planning? How do we deal with urban sprawl? And how do we ensure that prospectively we are building new towns with infrastructure. Thirdly, Minister, I want to raise this issue of financing, because much can be said about many things, but Salga raised quite correctly that they are owed 400 odd billion rands. 21 billion rands of that is from provincial departments. The facts are, let us pay. If you want people to pay, let government also pay, so that we can deal with the delivery of smart meters, so that we can ensure people are able to be connected back to the grid. And lastly, and most crucial, if you want to roll out smart meters, let's do that quickly and effectively. It's a moving target. I was with ESCOM this morning, as you know. They informed me by the end of this year, they will have only dealt with load reduction in 5 of the 9 provinces. I want to wish you well with your ambitious objective, but I want to say to you, let us deal with municipal incompetence, or we'll never build one South Africa. I can tell you that. Thank you very much.
ATM. Honorable Ishmael Musa.
You'll also have to take out the jacket as well. Honorable Deputy Speaker, universal peace and blessings upon this blessed and beloved country, South Africa. Al-Jamaa welcomes the Minister's detailed and structured program to eradicate load reduction, particularly the clear distinction that this is not a generation crisis, but a distribution and governance failure at community level. We note the staggering reality that 971 feeders affecting approximately 1.7 million South Africans were subjected to load reduction. These are not just numbers. These are families in townships, informal settlements, and rural areas who are already economically vulnerable, now further pushed into darkness. This also exasperates the situation with the supply of electricity to boost our economy. Al-Jamaa agrees that illegal connections, vandalism, and infrastructure overloading must be addressed. But we must be equally clear, poverty and inequality are the root drivers of this crisis. Our government cannot enforce compliance where affordability and access are absent. We therefore support the expansion of free basic electricity and proper indigent registration as identified by the Minister. However, this must not remain a policy intention. It must become a community-driven campaign led jointly by municipalities, faith-based organizations, and local leadership structures. On smart meters, while over 380,000 installations have been achieved, we caution that technology without trust will fail. Engagement must therefore be continuous, transparent, and respectful. Al-Jamaa strongly supports the Honorable Minister's emphasis on rebuilding a social compact. This compact must be rooted in justice. Al-Jamaa calls for protection of the poor from criminalization and firm action against organized electricity theft syndicates. Al-Jamaa welcomes the target to eliminate load reduction by the end of 2026, but we emphasize this is not just an infrastructure deadline, it is a test of whether the state can restore dignity and boost our economy at community level. Al-Jamaa believes that energy justice is social justice. Let us ensure that when we restore electricity, we are not only restoring power to the grid, but power to the people. Viva to Al-Jamaa and the new registration of Al-Jamaa supporters. Malibongwe!
The NCC. Honorable Mashlatsi. UAT. The We move on. The Honourable Hassan.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. There is a tendency in this House to speak about electricity in technical terms alone, about megawatts, capacity factors, and infrastructure. But for millions of South Africans, especially in our townships and the working class communities, electricity is not just a technical matter. It is dignity, safety, and livelihood. And today, we must be clear that we as the ANC are not here to defend a problem, we are here to resolve it. And as we reflect on this moment, we must recognize that South Africa has experienced both load shedding and load reduction. And there are technical differences that honorable members don't seem to understand. Load shedding was a national crisis of generation, while load reduction is a local crisis of distribution. Load reduction is concentrated in our townships, in our informal settlements, in our rural communities, where infrastructure is under the greatest strain and where the legacy of apartheid spatial planning continues to shape outcomes. It is unacceptable that our people should continue to endure this burden, Minister, and as the ANC, we stand with our people as we did this past weekend during our historic People's March, where hundreds of thousands of people took to the streets in defense of dignity, in defense of fairness and a better life. South Africa has now experienced actually 312 days with no load shedding. Honourable Milam, you yourself have conceded that the grid hasn't stabilized. And when we made the commitment to end load shedding, many in this very House and beyond dismissed it as an election gimmick, including that of the EFF, and you were wrong. What we have delivered is not temporary relief. It is a serious, sustained, and successful intervention. The energy availability factor has consistently remained above 65%, and unplanned outages have declined by more than 50% compared to the previous year. And this is not abstract. This is translated into real economic impact, with a 1.4% growth returning to the economy. Unemployment has declined from 35% to 31.4% in the most recent quarter. And most importantly, 320,000 jobs have been added in the same quarter, contributing to 1.5 million jobs that have been created since 2021. So we are indeed turning the corner. And as we stabilize generation, the struggle has shifted from power stations to communities, from generation to distribution. And for residents on the ground, the distinction between load shedding and load reduction does mean very little. The outcome is the same. You're left without electricity during critical hours, which compounds hardship. And we must understand what this means in the daily lives of our people. It disrupts cooking, bathing, studying, and household safety. It affects clinics, schools, and street lighting. It actually deepens inequality, and it has a real economic impact. Township economies, which we rightly identify as engines of inclusive growth, depend on reliable electricity. Our spaza shops, our food traders, salons, welders, mechanics, all of them require it. And so when load reduction hits, Minister, income is lost, stock is damaged, and opportunities are delayed. And therefore, what is unfolding in our country, led by the Minister and the ANC, is not simply a technical rollout to eradicate load reduction. It is a deliberate act of governance, and one that is taking the state out of offices and into our communities. It is across provinces that we are seeing consultation not just as a formality, we are seeing engagement as a method of change. Difficult conversations are being held, trusts are being built, and crucially, communities are not being spoken at, they are being worked with. For community members such as Mr. Machaka and Ms. Lapa in Limpopo, who now care for their families in light, not in darkness. To the students in the Edendale Student Village in Msunduzi, who now have access to Wi-Fi, electronic study materials, and prepare for their futures. To Ms. Andile Nkosi, who runs an ECD center in the JS Morocco municipality, who can now ensure that children are cared for with dignity. From engagements with the traditional leaders such as Khosi Pelani in the Northwest, to community leaders like the late Ms. Lerato Mokwa, who tragically lost her life after one of these engagements. May her soul rest in peace. Her passing reminds us that this work is not abstract. It is human, it is lived, and it carries real sacrifice. But honorable members, these are not isolated successes. They are pointing to something much deeper. And that is that when communities are engaged honestly, when leadership is present, and when solutions are practical, progress is not absolutely possible. It can soar. And so from Kuruman in the Northern Cape to Mitchell's Plain in the Western Cape, load reduction has been fully eradicated. From Zanin Limpopo to Msunduzi in KZN, we as the ANC are working day and night to ensure that our people no longer have to suffer the burden of load reduction. And through the deployment of microgrids in areas like Everton, Madimbo and others, this too will change. So Minister, we say this very clearly as the African National Congress. By the end of the 26-27 financial year, this program must deliver the full eradication of load reduction across the entirety of the country, and we as the ANC will hold you accountable to that timeline. On electricity tariffs and affordability that many members spoke about, many South Africans' electricity is no longer just about access, it is about what we can afford to use it. And at the same time, we acknowledge all those difficulties and losses. We must be honest, honourable members, that electricity prices are too high. They are placing immense pressure on the working class, the poor and even the middle class. Today, households are forced to into impossible
Order, honourable
choices.
members. You are drowning out this. Honourable Reddy. Don't. Honourable Reddy, then you bring a motion, a substantive motion. It is unparliamentary to say a member is lying. Did you say the member is lying?
I'm pretty sure he said the member was lying, Deputy Speaker. I could hear it quite
Honourable
clearly.
Hassan, please take your chair.
I
Honourable
said-
Reddy, what
yes.
did you say?
I said the member is misleading the House.
No. Okay. Honourable, thank you very much. Honourable
I
Reddy.
did say
I
the member
will
is lying.
check
We all lie
the
when we lie down to
recordings
sleep.
and the Hansard.
Don't we
what
lie when
you
we
said.
sleep? No, I said lie.
Honourable
We
Reddy,
lie
I'm
to
not
sleep.
getting into
So
an
to
argument
me it was
with
like
you.
she's sleeping. She's
I
lying.
have now
Lying
called you
down.
out of order and I will check with Hansard.
Thank you, thank you.
Honourable Hassan, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. The point is that households now have to make a critical choice. How do they spend their last 100 rand? Is it on transport fees? Is it on food? Is it on electricity? And that is exactly why we as the ANC, through our minister, is reviewing the energy pricing policy to fundamentally reshape the cost structure of electricity and ease the burden on our people. We are not running away from the problem. We are confronting it directly, deliberately, and decisively. It's also deeply ironic, Deputy Speaker, that there are many here who are crying foul over NERSA, while having supported the very same AfriForum litigation
Honourable Hassan,
that has
please
resulted...
take your seat. Yes, Honourable Member, what is your point of order?
Honorable Chair, reviewing the electricity pricing was a committee call and it was led by MK. Let's make that clear. Thank you so much.
Honourable Member, that is a point of debate. I do not allow it. Honourable Hassan, please proceed.
It's quite typical of MKP to steal things, including that of the decision of the energy pricing policy, which will remain that of an ANC resolution. Again, deeply ironic, given that MKP, the ranks within, and the party leader caused the very same crisis that we are now trying to solve as the ANC. So we are not going to allow our country to be taken for fools. We are not going to allow our citizens to be taken for fools. We will be the ones who ensure the actual delivery of this program, and we will ensure that electricity tariffs come down because we are the party of the people. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I want to talk about the Integrated National Electrification Program. Since 1994, we as the ANC has undertaken one of the most ambitious electrification programs in the world. We have connected millions of households through this program, and we have corrected the injustices of apartheid. And before I close and sit down, as the ANC, we say this clearly. We will not accept a situation when poorer communities experience a different standard of electricity access than the rest of the country. We will not accept a two-tier energy system where reliability is determined on income. We will not turn away from the responsibility to fix both the technical and the social dimension of a crisis. Because at its core, it's not just about electricity. It is about dignity. It is about justice and economic transformation. And so the question before us is not whether load reduction must end. It must, and it will end under Minister Ramokgopa and the ANC. The real question is whether we build an energy system that works only for those who can afford it,
expired.
or for those who can support South Africans. And as the ANC,
Honourable Minister.
One loaf.
No, thank you for the contribution. Just to say that I think the transversal question that is apparent from the contribution is the following. It's about the credibility of the state and its believability. And all of those put together talks to the legitimacy of the state. So what's the point I'm making? In the lead up to the national and provincial elections, a lot in this House, in the sixth administration, championed by the DA, called our actions an election gimmick. And I made the point that our interventions are not politically expedient. They are led by science, they are led by competent engineers, and that we are going to solve the problem. And today we have solved the problem because we are technically competent, we know what we are doing. I'm coming again before the country in public and I say, as a group of engineers, we are going to resolve load reduction. And I've shared with you what those
Honourable
timelines
Minister,
are.
please take your seat. Honourable Motwe.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Is the minister trying to say the Rater was a candidate of the DA because he was the
Honourable
ESCOM CEO
Member, that is
and
a
not the
matter of
ANC
debate. You
candidate?
did not
Is
ask
that what
the
he's trying to
Honourable
tell us?
Motwe, you did not ask whether the minister wants to take a question. Honourable Reddy, have you finished eating? What is your point of order?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. No, I'm diabetic, so I got to have something now and again. I believe that the Honorable Minister is misleading the nation. Let me tell you why.
Honourable Reddy, you are not getting into a debate now. You are ruled
It's
out
not
of
a debate.
Honourable Reddy, you are now ruled out of order. Honourable Minister, please proceed.
So we are making that public pronouncement.
Honourable Minister, please take your seat. What is your point of order, Honourable Member?
Honorable Chair, can the minister talk English that is clear for people to understand?
Honourable Member, that is not a point of order. Honourable Minister, Honourable Hassan, let the Minister proceed.
And I must say to Honorable Daniels, I take your counsel to say that we have to be very open about what are the timelines, which wards, which areas. I think that's a particularly useful intervention. I agree with you, Honorable Maimane and Honorable Ismail, in the characterization of the problem. So it's not a technical engineering problem. It's about inclusion. It's about the South Africa that we want. And that's why in the main statement, we do make that concession and that we should do everything possible to ensure that these villages, townships, relatively poor areas, indeed don't have to experience this interruption in supply. And then I really want to say the following to the member of the DA who came here. I know about his technical limitations and incompetence, but I never thought that it will reach such preposterous proportions. Let me take an opportunity with the little time that is left just to assault these arguments that he was raising, just to expose the degree of the incompetence. So he makes the point that, especially in Tebeja, the challenges are on the reticulation and distribution side. When in fact, when he started, he said that this is really a change of wording, that load reduction is the same as a load shedding. When in fact, in his argument, he does make the point that is an isolated distribution challenge. The second one he makes is that the rate of transmission expansion is such that we will not be able to onboard new generation capacity, especially when it comes from renewable energy assets in the country because they are located in areas where there's no grid capacity because we have exhausted it. And he says at the rate at which we are building, we are unlikely going to reach this ambition. The assumption he's making there is that construction follows a linear path, when in fact we are going to get to a stage where we are going to peak because we have ramped up the supply side in the form of industry and the skills and the fact that the program will be maturing, we are going to peak at an exceptionally high level. And then he makes a claim here that we are going to lose the climate financing. It's misleading. So any form of financing that comes our direction must be affordable financing. You can make your public pronouncement that there's an instrument made available, $12 billion coming from these countries. It must be affordable. It must be such that it trumps whatever can be raised from the commercial banks. So if it doesn't meet those requirements, we are not going to take that funding. So we are not going to go in blind, because the cost of that funding must be recovered somewhere. If it's excessive, we are going to recover it from the end user. And then the claim that is made here that we are going to privatize ESCOM. I want to say to the rest, to the country, we will not privatize ESCOM. This asset will remain in the stable of government. When the president announced, I'm part of that technical team. We are going to answer very difficult questions. And once we submit that to the president, he'll make that determination. So it doesn't necessarily follow. We are not going to privatize the assets of the state. And then to Paulson, we have announced the IRP. You know, my friend, that we have shared with you the rollout plan. We are coming out on the procurement dispensation. We are going to ensure that we deindustrialize. We are going to fundamentally alter the economic relations of society using the IRP. We see it as a fundamental tool of transformation. But to the rest of the country, but to Baga High, re tlo bo rarolla bothata bja load reduction. Ka mokgwa re le tshepisitseng maloba, re tlo e phethagatša le lehono. Re a leboha modulasetulo.
Honourable members, that concludes party responses to the statement. The Secretary will read the second order.
Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Trade, Industry and Competition on request by Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition to make recommendations regarding candidates for a position of Chairperson of Board of National Lotteries Commission.
I now recognise the Honourable Masina.
Thank you very much. On the 21st of October 2025, the Speaker referred the letter dated 20 October 2025 from the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition and for consideration by the report. In his letter, he requested that the relevant committee of the National Assembly makes recommendations regarding the suitability of nominees for appointment as a chairperson of the Board of the National Lottery in terms of Section 3.3 of the Lotteries Act number 57 of 1997. In terms of the subsection 3 of the Lotteries Act, the member contemplated in paragraph A of the subsection 1 shall appoint only after the minister has, by notice of the Gazette, in not less than 2 newspapers circulating in every province, invited interested parties to nominate persons suitable for appointment as chairperson, and the relevant committee of the National Assembly has made recommendation to the minister in relation thereto, after the transparent, open process of consideration for nomination has been done. He further indicated that the call for nomination has been published in Government Gazette on the 19th of September 2025 and in the Mail and Guardian on the 26th and the 2nd of October 2025 edition, as well as Sunday Independent on the 21st of September 2025. The nomination period closed on the 6th of October 2025, resulting in 22 nominations being received, as well as the CV being handed over to the committee. The committee convened on the 22nd of October 2025 and finalized the shortlisting of candidates to be interviewed for the position of chairperson of the board of NLC. The shortlisted candidates were Mr. Tibonakele, Mrs. J. Hymans, Mr. W. Mante, Advocate Memani, Ms. M. Musing, as well as Advocate Nevodwe. On the 10th of November 2025, the committee received a letter from Mr. Mante formally withdrawing from the process of the board. On the 2nd of December, the shortlisted candidates were interviewed for the position of the chairperson of the board. As part of the process, the committee subjected all shortlisted candidates to the security of screening as well as the checking of their qualifications. The committee convened on the 3rd of December to commence the deliberation on the candidates In light of the above, the committee recommends that the House request the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition consider the following candidate for the position of chairperson of the board. Mr. Thibo Nagele, who scored about 89%, Ms. M. Musing, who scored 71%, and Advocate Nevodwe, who scored 69%. Notwithstanding the recommended candidates that meet the legislative requirement, given the outcome of the security vetting by state security, the minister may consider conducting probity test of the proposed candidate as envisaged in terms of Section 3A2 of the Lotteries Act prior finalizing of this decision. I submit this report from the Portfolio Committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I will now recognize political parties wishing to make a declaration. The usual times for declaration of votes will apply. The DA.
Order.
Honorable Reddy.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The order of speakers should be next, MK, official opposition.
Yes.
I'm not sure how this happened now, but that is the order of speakers. It's MK now. Oh, he's MK.
Honorable Reddy.
Oh. Have you signed our membership? Did you join?
Honorable Reddy, no. Can you please switch off your mic? I think that discussion, you will have to take it in the Rules Committee because, no, let me explain. In debates, I know that it was agreed that the official opposition is the one that will follow the initial debate. But here we go according to the sequence, and it has been like that. So now it says the DA. There is nothing that says MK must follow. We go according to, no, these are reports. It's not like the usual debates where you get an official opposition be the second one. So I would request, honorable members, because this has been this way for a long time, please can you meet in the Rules Committee and then decide on that so that the table staff will know that next time it's either they put the MK as the official opposition first, or but now we go according to this sequence. Honorable Mauta.
Thank you, House Chair. Chair, it's a matter of principle. MK is the official opposition. It doesn't matter whether you are debating or it's a declaration or anything. Please don't do the wrong things. The fact that it was done before and was not raised, MK bebalele nabo. But now they are awake and we are just bringing it to you that because the EFF is going to take over this government and the MK will be official opposition. And they must be recognized as such.
Honorable
so
Mauta.
MK, whether we like it or we don't,
Honorable Mauta.
he is the official opposition.
Honorable Mauta, we are not going to open that discussion now. And if the MK wants that discussion to be open, they know the platform they should go to. Right now, I am going to allow the Democratic Alliance to come on the podium.
Chair, firstly, I was not done, and you
Honorable
can't just like that.
Chair,
House Chair,
Honorable
you can't do what you're
Mkhalakis.
doing. You can't do what you're doing.
Honorable Mauta have not recognized you. I have not recognized you. No, I have not recognized you. Honorable Mkhalakis.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, I had my hand up before you made your ruling, but if I may still speak. The members of the opposition are now eating into the time that my honourable colleague has to use. Honourable House Chair, Honourable Reddy and the members from the EFF who have their hands up know full well that this belongs at the Chief Whip's Forum and the Rules Committee. I would submit to you that they are now raising frivolous points of order, and if they continue that they are grossly disorderly in terms of Rule 69. House Chairperson, I would request you to allow the member from the DA to continue.
Honourable Skosana.
No, thank you very much, Honorable House Chair.
Honorable member from the DA, can you please take your seat?
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. Chair, we support your ruling. We've got structures in this parliament. We've got your rules committee, we've got your chief whips forum. Those are structures that processes matters like this. We don't have a problem for the MKP to be the second, but let the matter be processed in correct platforms, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, honorable members. Honorable members, I'm not going to allow any further more hands on this matter. I have allowed, no, honorable members, order. Honorable members, if no, I am not going to allow this matter to go any further. My reason being is that I am not the one to make a decision which party will follow the next. But these issues are being discussed in Rules Committee and in the Chief Whips Forum. But if the table was not given a recommendation that the DA must follow the MK, then which means this sequence stays as it is. And I will now recognize the honorable member of the DA. Honorable member.
Thank you, House Chair. According to the Institute of
House
Directors.
House Chair, no, please allow us. You're out of order.
Honorable Reddy, can you
House
please
Chair.
switch off your mic? Honorable members, I'm not going to take any further more hands on this. I've made a ruling and it stands. If anyone has a problem with that ruling, you know what to do. You write to the Rules Committee and to the Speaker. Now I am going to allow the member of the DA on the podium to speak. Continue,
Chair, but you are
honorable
out of
member.
order. House Chair, you no. House Chair.
Honorable members, I will not allow what you are going to do, what you are doing now. I will not allow it. I am telling you, the table would have advised so. That is not true. So no, I'm not going to allow it. And we are going to proceed with the business of
On a
the
different
day.
matter, I have my hand. On a different matter, House Chair.
Honorable member, can you please take a seat?
House Chair, they are wasting everybody's time. Remove them.
So, whichever honorable member that is speaking, I did not give you an opportunity to speak. Can you please switch off your mic? Honorable
House Chair,
member.
House Chair, Rule 8 does not allow you to do what you did to Honorable Mawoto. You must inform a member that you will switch off the mic. You don't just switch off the mic. You don't have that power. Rule 8 is very clear. If you have an intent of switching off the mics, you inform the member on the podium. You don't just switch it off. So you must apologize to Honorable Mawoto for wrongly switching off the mic.
Honorable Mentor, as much as I would have done now to you, because I called on the name of Honorable Mawoto and she did not want to listen to me. And that is why I then switched off the mic. And I'm not going to apologize on that, because when I call on her as the presiding officer, she must also listen to what I'm going to say. How was she going to know what I was going to say when she continues speaking? No, honorable members. We are proceeding. Honorable member of the DA. Honorable member of the DA, please proceed.
House Chair, House Chair, House Chair, no, House Chair.
They can't
No,
hear me,
House
so
Chair,
there's
no,
point in me speaking.
House Chair.
You must remove these people.
No, House Chair, no.
Honorable members.
Can you give
Honorable
me a
members.
House Chair.
Honorable members. Honorable members. Honorable members, we want to proceed with the day. Can you please allow that? If you've got any other, you know where you must send all your queries to and your dissatisfaction. You will send it to the Rules Committee and also to the Speaker's office. And we are not going to take any more hands on this matter. The Chief Whip of the MK.
Thank you.
Please, can you please help us, because you were part of the Chief Whip's Forum when this matter was discussed, and you know exactly what was discussed. So please do the orderly thing, Chair.
Honorable Chief Whip, you might be privy to the fact that I was part of the Chief Whip's Forum. But what recommendation that was said, I'm not privy to, because it was not shared amongst all of us. And clearly it was not shared with the table staff. So I am not going to, honorable members, I'm not going to change the ruling. I've made that ruling. And we are continuing with the business of the DA. Honorable member of the DA.
Chair, my hand is up, Chair.
Honorable members, the spurious point of orders that you are creating now, you are out of order. You are out of order. You are out of order. I will request that you are in order so that we continue with the business of the
You are
day.
behaving like a Sangoma. You are prophesying what members.
Because I am not going to change this sequence.
No.
This sequence is never changed by presiding officers.
Like a Sangoma.
So it must be agreed according to the Chief Whip's Forum, and then the table staff will then change it. But I am not going to change that now. And I've made a ruling on this one.
Respecting Sangoma.
You are very problematic.
EFF respects this house.
Honorable
Please
Mhlongo,
respect
Honorable
this house.
Mhlongo, Honorable Mhlongo, you are cautioned. You do that again, I'm going to take you out of the house. Honorable Khalid.
Never happen.
No, Chair,
It's not going to happen.
I want to, Chairperson, I want to remind you, because this matter is not being raised for the first time. This matter was raised after elections, after 2024 elections. It was discussed in the Chiefs Forum and
Take it to that forum, not here.
that MKP is an official opposition. At some point, the speaker was occupying that chair that we are occupying. And then he made a mistake, and then we corrected the speaker because it was long corrected. So therefore, corrected chair, it has been implemented long time ago in 2024. Just check with the table staff, they will tell you that's exactly what happened, Chair. We are not fighting, we are reminding you.
Honorable members, Salapans.
Honorable members, I'm not going to open up a discussion again on this issue. As I have said, I have not presided. I am not starting to preside over reports only now. We have been presiding over reports, and it has been a sequence of DA, MK, and so forth. And you have been quiet about it all this time.
Allow
So we
yourself
are
to
not
relate.
going to open it up for further discussions. The Honorable Chief Whip of the ANC.
No, thanks, Chair. Chair, I want to suggest that, because I think we are gravitating towards the House being completely in pandemonium. So I want to suggest, with your permission, Chair, that because my colleagues are making references to the Chief Whip's Forum, which is a meeting that I'm not only a member, but I'm also a chairperson of. I want to propose, with your permission, that you allow us, at least for 5 minutes, for me to have a consultation with the Chief Whips on this matter. And then we can proceed after that, having understood.
Honorable members, Chief Whip, please be quiet. Please be quiet. The Chief Whip of the NC has not finished yet.
So Chair, I'm requesting, Chair, that I think in order to avoid a degeneration of the House, please allow me to have a consultation with the Chief Whips, just for 5 minutes, so that we can discuss this issue and come back with a proposal to you on how we must proceed.
Don't clap yet. I might not even agree to that.
We are clapping. We're not going to stop clapping.
Honorable members, we'll suspend the House for 5 minutes and come back again.
awulaleli. Funda ukulalela.
Uyababona bekhuluma nje.
Chu 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 malema chu chu chu. When we commander kindergarten. This is
security yaketwando.
Nuli soja. Aye. Bari wini. One.
Asina.
We can't cross the floor when the maize is in the house for every vote.
The maize comes from 1913. You know, from 1913 this maize came.
You know you
and we
cross
honor
the
this
floor
maize.
yourself. You
Huh?
cross the floor yourself when the maize is in the house. That's a
Yes.
transgression. You
Yes,
can't do
we must
that.
cross.
No,
I
you
don't respect
can't
this
do
thing.
that. No. Ready, stop this childishness.
We will now resume with the business. Honorable members, as we had suspended the House with the consultation of Chief Whips Forums, we are now suspending item 2 and 3 and will only go to the 4th item, which I will now call the secretary to read the last order.
Consideration of report.
Honorable members, can we please be quiet?
Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on
Honorable
Transport.
members, no, we can't behave like that. Can we allow the secretary to read the last order?
Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Transport on request by Minister of Transport to make recommendations regarding candidates for appointment to Board of Aviation Safety Investigation Board.
I will now recognize the Honorable Chief Whip. Honorable Trolip.
Thank you, House Chair. I just want to make a point of order. When the Chief Whip said he wanted to break, he'd break for 5 minutes to try and resolve something that has been unresolved for 2 years. Please don't do that again in this House, because the rest of us sit here like useless fools, wasting nearly an hour for a 5-minute meeting. It's not good enough.
My apologies, Honorable Trolip. It was not my intention to make you sit. But as I've said that we are going to suspend item 2 and 3. But now I am recognizing the Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. And I move that the report on the Portfolio Committee on Transport on the request of the Minister of Transport to make recommendations regarding the candidates for the appointment of the Aviation Safety Investigation Board be referred back to the Portfolio Committee on Transport for further consideration. Thanks.
Honorable members, does the House agree with the motion?
Yes.
Thank you very much, honorable members. I will now request honorable members to stand and wait for the mace and the presiding officer, and the House is adjourned.
Ifata, lianyamezela, ifata.